We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there's none like you. commemorate him on this time of rest. As we gathered here together in this place, we do appreciate the Abba for allowing us to be back in the city once again to commemorate and celebrate a time of rest, a time that we cease from all our physical labors, that we may focus and give all of our undivided attention unto the Abba, and a time to give him praise, give him esteem for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do. It's up. Okay. That's not my David. All right. And all that he's doing. We do appreciate him. Once again, we're going to have another song, and then we're going to go into our time of confession. And it is so. And it is. Come on, give him praise.
Oh, Yahuwah, we praise you. 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 Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Dance like David dance. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Dance like David dance. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Dance like David dance. Oh, Yahuwah, we praise you. 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 Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Dance like David dance. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Dance like David dance. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Dance like David dance. Oh, Yahuwah, we praise you. 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 Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Ain't the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Oh, Yahuwah, we praise you. 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 Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Clap like David clap. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. Ain't nobody mad
Praise him, praise him, praise him. He's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy of all praise and worthy of all esteem. As we end with the Baruch of the Torah, and then we're going to have the 10 Commandments read by Mattathias. Repeat with me, Baruch Yahuwah.
Baruch Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch
For
one.
all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah. Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme.
King of the universe.
King of the
Who
universe.
selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the people.
And gave us his Torah.
And gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme.
King of the universe.
King of the
Who
universe.
gave us the Torah of truth.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
And implanted eternal life within us.
And implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now we have the reading of the 10 Commandments done by Mattathias. And it is so.
Devarim 5, verses 6 to 22. Aleph, I am Yahuwah, your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bake of slavery. Bake, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the Mayim beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the Abbas upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that are hot me. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah, your power, and falsify it. For Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Dalet, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, esteem your Abba and your image, Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. Why? You shall not murder. Zain, neither shall you commit adultery. Ket, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. You, neither shall you desire your neighbor's issue, neither shall you covet your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words you have spoken to all your assembly in the mount, out of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. Devarim chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. And it reads, These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the yamim of your life, and that your yamim may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yasharal, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Shemat Yasharal, Yahuwah our power, Yahuwah is Akkad. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our supreme one, Yahuwah is Akkad. And you shall have your supreme one, Yahuwah your supreme one, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this yom shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall to what?
Bind to the mind.
To bind to the mind, to give the true Torah access to your mind. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land, which he swore to your Abbas, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Yaakov, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of all great things which you fill not, wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant, When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah. Somebody say, don't forget him.
Don't forget him.
Say it again, don't forget him.
Don't forget him.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Then beware lest you forget Yahuwah, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right in the sight of Abba Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Abba Yahuwah swore unto your fathers. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let's have another song, please.
Ayahab Yahuwah, Ayahab Yahuwah, Ayahab Yahuwah. It was the best thing I ever done. Ayahab Yahuwah, Ayahab Yahuwah, it was the best thing I ever done. Oh, Ayahab Yahuwah, Ayahab Yahuwah, it was the best thing I ever done. Oh, in your arms, I feel protected. In your arms, I feel connected. In your arms, I feel protected. And there is no place I'd rather be. Oh, in your arms, I feel protected. In your arms, I feel connected. In your arms, I feel protected. And there is no place I'd rather be. Oh, Ayahab Yahuwah, Ayahab Yahuwah, Ayahab Yahuwah. It was the best the best thing I ever done. Oh, it was the best thing I ever done. Oh, in your arms, I feel protected. In your arms, I feel connected. In your arms, I feel protected. And there is no place I'd rather be. Oh, it was the best thing I ever done. Oh, it was the best thing I ever done. Oh, in your arms, I feel protected. In your arms, I feel connected. In your arms, I feel protected. And there is no place I'd rather be. Oh, in your arms, I feel protected. In your arms, I feel connected. In your arms, I feel protected. And there is no place I'd rather be. Oh, it was the best thing I ever done.
I appreciate the Abba for all and all that he's yet going to do. How many of you truly have Abba Yehovah? Yes, I do. He's worthy of our praise, worthy of all esteem, and we can magnify him. We celebrate him for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do in the lives of us as people, as individuals, but most importantly, as a nation that is coming together, undivided, but truly trusting in the Mashiach and believing in everything that the Yahweh has given unto us as his people. We truly do appreciate him for yet one more opportunity to celebrate him in this day and in this time, or in this yom and in this time. We want to turn our attention to the Son of Noon. chapter 1. We're going to read 7 and we're going to confess verse 8. Very important that we let this stick to our ribs and that it not just become a saying, but we truly live by it. In the time we live in, many of you may feel it and many of you may not, the pressure to maintain our integrity in the midst of a lawless people, to maintain our uprightness in the midst of a people that don't regard us, in the midst of going through trials and tribulations, maintaining our focus and not allowing the Torah to depart out of our mouths is very important. One thing that I'm learning, once again, and we will be coming from Yahushua, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verses 6, 7, and 8, is that it is very important that we maintain our position of integrity, remembering that we are royalty. We are a royal priesthood. We are a people that is to be set apart and set aside. And there are times, if we be real, that there are people and there are things that will push our button. And if we're not careful, we will step out of that order and out of that confinement or that which he has defined for us and how he has called us and what he's called us to live by.
That's right.
So it is important that we keep this as a reminder so that when those times are upon us and when those situations be upon us, that we will not be as Samson and give out our strength. Tell where our strength lies. You know, he told Delilah where his strength lies, that she kept pressing him and pressing him and pressing him. We can't allow the enemy to press us so that we give. I refuse to give up my strength without a fight. I won't give it up. If it is because it's taken, but it won't be taken without a fight. Right. So it's important to understand we must maintain and hold fast our integrity. And I'm telling you now, whether many of you believe it or not, the enemy is becoming more brazen and more bold and doing things to try to pull us out. It's a known truth. And this is why we must maintain and hold fast to the writings that he's given unto us. Because if not, we will find ourselves walking outside of that. We will find ourselves becoming defensive at everything that comes our way. We'll be defended, we'll be offended, by everything that comes our way. There are some things you just got to let ride. There's some things that you can see from a distance. And when you recognize those things, you got to remember, as Yahushua was told, hold fast and don't let go. Because the integrity of the word will not fail. It will not fail. It will not fail. Regardless of who chews it up, spits it out, and tries to convey it back out in the wrong manner. The word will not lose its integrity. And so it's important that we hold on to that. But he tells him in verse 6, be strong and of a great courage. For to this people shall you divide for an inheritance the land, which I swore to their Abbas to give them. That's very important for us to remember. Verse 7, only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Now, when you think about prosperity, just for a moment, I want to elaborate on this. We're not talking about just having, all of the riches and the gold, the silver, and the diamonds, meaning to prosper in the revelation knowledge and prosper in our relationship with the Abba. Because you can prosper in every other way, but yet you can be deficient and broken and bankrupt in your relationship with the Abba. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be that way. I don't. I want to be wealthy in my relationship with him, and I want it to be healthy. Because it is important. Because without that relationship, everything else is mute, is minute. It's of none of importance. And so it's important that we understand that. Verse 8, as I've taken it to fit our time of confession, confess with me. I will not let this scroll of the Torah.
I will not let this scroll of the Torah
depart out of my mouth.
Depart out of my mouth.
But I shall meditate in it.
But I shall meditate in it.
Yom and Layla.
Yom and Layla.
That I may observe to do.
That I may observe to do.
According to all that is written in it.
According to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous.
And then I shall make my way prosperous.
And then I shall act wisely.
And then I shall act wisely.
Now look at your neighbor, tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely. And you shall act wisely. Look at your other neighbor, tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely. And you shall act wisely. Now take your hand and put it over your heart and say, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Come on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I am determined
I am determined
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
I am determined
I am determined
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
Come on, I am determined
I am determined
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so very important. And you will be tested, trust me. We will be tested individually and as a nation of people. And we've got to maintain our time of confession. All right, let us have another song, please.
You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I'm so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I'm so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I'm so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I'm so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me. You take the pain away. I'm so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I'm so harbor you. And everything about you is right. It covers all my wrongs. Your light saved my life. You is where I belong. I belong to you. I belong to you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. So harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. So harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. So harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. So harbor you. And everything about you is right. It covers all my wrongs. Your life saved my life. You is where I belong. I belong to you. I belong to you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever worship you. Forever me and 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 you. Everything about you is right. Hello, Yahweh. Hello, Yahweh. Forever. And everything about you is right. Everything about you is right. It's amazing, how we hear the songs of the world sing about this, sing about that, sing about a man, sing about a woman, and how they're going to be with them forever and forever. But it's important to remember that our true ahab, not saying that you shouldn't ahab the person you're with. Please don't get that wrong, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we are to truly ahab the Abba with everything that's us. And we should always make it known forever me and you. Because when we all have that mindset, as a nation, we will say forever it will be us and the Abba. That's right. Through his son, Yahushua HaMashiach. I don't know about you, but I have him so much that there are times when I think about him and you just ever get choked, don't know what to say. You just don't know how to really express yourself in a manner that's pleasing to him. And when you ahab him in a manner that everything you do, you want to make sure it's right. You want to make sure what you say, what you do, you want to make sure that it's right. And it's important, once again, that we make sure we have that ahab for him, that we are willing to go out and do whatever he says do. We're willing to make the necessary changes in order to please him. That's one of the things about this walk. I won't say flexibility, but I'll say we need to not follow under the writings where it says ever learning but never coming into the truth. In our times of learning, if we've learned something wrong, let's be humble enough to turn around and say, hey, you know what? You're right. This is wrong. I've learned this. Just because it's in the book doesn't make it right. And just because everybody seems to agree with it, and you may have others that will back it and put their, their John, Henry or John Hancock on it, whatever their signature, doesn't mean that it's right. We have history to prove that. That's right. But he told us in the writings, Yahushua said, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow. It is important that we listen attentively, not just with your physical ears, but listen with your ruach. Because through the ruach, that's where we are able to discern right and wrong. If you just listen with your physical ear, just like if you just look with your natural eyes, you're going to miss a many things. We behold through the ruach, and that is how we maintain this walk. Because if you look through the natural and just listen from the natural, there are many things that will discourage us and toss us out the race before we even get in the starting blocks.
Right.
So it's important that we remain humble, and if we're not humble yourself, because you don't want him to humble you. Because his humbling is a breaking process. His humbling is a crushing process. And he shouldn't have to do that to us when we already know I'm going to humble myself
And I'm going to listen attentively because I want to grow and I want to follow in be upright in his presence. I don't want him to turn me away. So it's very important that we understand that. And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 1:1, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of the Abba. This is so important for us. Even though it says man, even for us as women, it is very important that we follow this. Do you hear what he gave? He gave instructions. Not only did he give instructions, but he also gave praise. He said, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous. You know what counsel means? That means to get your information and your instructions from a person that is not righteous. And if that person is not righteous, there is no way possible they're going to give you anything righteous and cause you to walk in that place of uprightness. It's just like people, there was a question asked on in one of the holistic communities. And they said, if you were on an island stranded and there was nothing but pigs there to eat, would you slaughter and eat? Absolutely not. Because it's against his instructions.
That's right.
It's against his commands. It's against his doctrine for us as his people. You have people say, well, yeah, he wouldn't mind. You start thinking, if he didn't want us to do it then, and he sure don't want us to do it now, what makes us believe if the situation changes, it's going to be all right?
Yeah.
They said if you were stranded somewhere and all around you were shrimp, crab legs, and other seafood, but you had nothing to eat but that, would you kill and eat? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That would be a 40-day, 50-day, 60-day, 70-day fast. Because if he put me there or put you there or put us there, he's going to make a way for us. He's not going to cause us. The writings tell us he will put no more on us than we can bear. But the thing of it is do we trust him enough to get to that point in life to where if there is nothing else to eat and there is nothing else for us, will we be willing to wait? You've got to be willing to wait. You've got to be willing to know and trust him beyond reason, beyond everything else that everybody else would say. And in doing so, he will always make a way. He's never left his people without. And he won't begin to do it. We just got to maintain. So the thing of it is truly walking in that place and not getting counsel from the unrighteous. Because if you get counsel from the unrighteous, guess what's going to happen? You're going to become unrighteous. And your heart for him will change. You will no longer be sensitive. You will no longer have a desire to truly have him. So it's important that we be careful of where we get our instructions from and who we listen to. Very important. Ibram 11:6. But without believing it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is and that he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Diligently seek him. This is not one of those you seek him when you feel like it and when you don't. No, you have to seek him. Are you following?
Yes.
Ayah 33:4. The Ruach of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Somebody say he's a life giver.
He's a life giver.
Say it again, he's a life giver.
He's a life giver.
Micah 3:8. But truly I am full of power by the Ruach of Yahuwah, and of judgment and of might to declare unto Yaakov his transgression and to Yasharal his sin. Very important that we understand that. Mishlei 15:8. The sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful, and exceedingly offensive unto you, Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. He takes delight in us praying and seeking his face. Prayer is an act of communicating with him. It's an act of communication. And so when you harm somebody, you talk to him. You talk to him. You communicate, and then you give them an opportunity to speak back. I don't like one-sided conversations. When people just kill the conversation, call you to talk, to dialogue, but by the time it's all said and done, they've done all the talking for 2 hours, and then by the time you get ready to say something, well, child, let me get off this phone. What? You ain't giving me a time to say anything. But with him, we dialogue with him. He speaks to us through his word. He speaks to us through the Ruach. He speaks to us. So we have to listen. We have to have a trained ear to listen. I want to say this, and it may sound crazy, but even when training animals, especially puppies or any animal, the thing that makes them so committed to you or committed to me is they learn our voices while they're young. This is what makes them be obedient. This is what makes them listen to you and not anybody else. Because while they're young, you communicate, you talk to them, you train them, you imprint your voice into their lives. And in doing so, when you tell them sit, stand up, roll over, when you tell them to do all those things, or be quiet, shush, when you give them certain commands, the reason why they do it, and you know, people have them dogs on point, is because when they're small, they begin to train them. The moment we come into truth is the moment we need to begin to shun everything else out and listen attentively. Because remember, we've heard everything else already. So now we have to learn to hear his voice through his writings and through the Ruach. And one thing about it, he is not the author of confusion. He never has been, and he never will be. If confusion is in the midst, that means it's time to step back and see who else is in the mix. Because the Abba is not confusion. He is not the author of confusion. And you have to understand, the Abba has protocol, and he has a regime, and he has a setup. And whenever order is disrupted and messed up, that's where confusion will always come in. So it's important that we learn and that we listen, and we learn to listen and hear his voice.
That's right.
He said, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow. It's important that we understand that. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important. Yehukanan Aleph 5, 1 through 15. And it reads, everyone who believes that Yahush is the Mashiach has been born of Yahuwah. And everyone who ahabs the one bringing forth also ahab the one having been born of him. Talking about Yahush. By this we know that we ahab the children of Yahuwah, meaning we ahab one another, the children, not the counterfeits, not those that have come in by way of theft, not the ones that come in and pretend to be Yahuwah's children. See, there's something about knowing a person's children. When we would go different places, we have 7 boys, 2 girls, and we have one, our baby, which is 10. And so my oldest is 33. So when we would go places as they were coming up, people knew because of the way our children would carry themselves. We didn't have to go in the store and say when we get to the door, now you get in here and act up, I'm going to act up on you. That was already understood before they left home, because the way you act at home is the way you're going to act when you get outside. So they knew how to act. They knew how to govern themselves. It is the same way with us as the children of Yasharal, knowing how to act, knowing how even to conduct ourselves among each other, even knowing how to converse with one another, even knowing how to have disagreements. Learning how to disagree agreeably. Now understand what I'm saying. When it is merited, there's some things it doesn't matter if you disagree. If it's right, it's right. And I learned this from an old preacher years ago. He said he had a dog, and he went to feed that dog. He went to pet the dog while the dog was eating. The dog reached up to snap at him. He said, "Oh no, you don't live here no more." He said, "I'm the one feeds you, and you're going to try to bite me?" No, you don't do that. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. So when it comes down to things, the dog disagreed with him trying to touch him. He wasn't trying to take his food. He was just trying to show, touch him. People say, you don't touch them, they'll bite you. Wait a minute, I'm the one feeding them. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. So it is important that we understand. There are times for disagreement, then there's times to shut up, humble yourself, and accept what is being put out there. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And I got the writings to back it up. So it's important that we understand what is being conveyed here. We're supposed to ahab one another because we are the children. We ahab Yahuwah and guard his commands. Verse 3, for this is the ahab for Yahuwah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not difficult. Because everyone having been begotten of Yahuwah overcomes the world. And this is the overcoming that has overcome the world. Our what? Belief. What do we believe in truthfully? Do we believe in the Abba? Do we believe in the Mashiach? Do we believe in the Ruach HaKodesh? Do we believe that we are the people? Because when you have all these ingredients all together, then we become a force unstoppable. But we also be a people that's humble and not haughty, especially with each other. That's one of the number one things that we have to deal with as a people, being haughty and so arrogant towards one another. I'm not your enemy. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That's important for us to understand. We be ready to kill each other. I'm not the enemy. Who is the one who overcomes the world, but he who believes that Yahush is the son of Yahuwah? Verse 6, this is the one that came by water and blood, Yahush Mashiach, not only by water, but by water and blood. And it is the Ruach who bears witness, because the Ruach is the truth. Because there are three who bear witness, the Ruach and the water and the blood, and the three are in agreement. Now understand this, if they are in agreement in your life, that means that we are in agreement because we believe what? In the same thing. There was a post put up. How can you still be in truth and be lost? Disobedience and miseducation. There's no way we should be awakening in truth and still lost and still following after unwise or unrighteous counsel. It's important we understand that. And always remember, the majority is not always right. If we receive the witness of men, the witness of Yahuwah is greater. Whose witness is greater?
Yahuwah.
Whose witness is greater?
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah. So I don't care if everybody on the face of this planet rolls up and said one thing, and it wasn't but two or three that says, nope, it don't matter. Yahuwah's witness out trumps, outstands, and refutes everything else. And that's the key thing, is making sure we're following his witness and not the witness and the evidence of men. Now, with that being said, let me say this so people don't take the wrong what I'm saying. You do have to believe in people. Because if you don't believe in people, then what you going to believe in? Because that's where we have to get information from. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So it's important we understand that. But once again, let's go back to the writings, to Hillel 1 and 1. Do not follow up behind unrighteous counsel, nor sit in the seat of the scornful, but keep your delight in the instructions of the Abba, because that's the only way we're going to make it, no matter what. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
Now, once again, the one who believes in the Son of Yahuwah has the witness in himself. The one who does not believe Yahuwah has made him a liar, because he has not believed the witness that Yahuwah has given concerning his Son. And this is the witness that Yahuwah has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. He who possesses the Son possesses life. He who does not possess the Son of Yahuwah does not possess life. I have written this to you who believe in the name of the Son of Yahuwah, so that you know that you possess everlasting life, and so that you believe in the name of the Son of Yahuwah. And this is the boldness that we have in him, that if we ask whatever means what? According to his Torah, his instructions. According to his desire, he hears us. Anything else we pray that does not line up with his instructions, if it get answered, you better question who's answering you, because it sure is not Abba Yahuwah. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of him. He's not going to break his instructions for me, neither is he going to break them for you. We have to follow his instructions. So it's important that we understand that and not try to alter it or tailor it. It's not going to work. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
What he says, what he means. And we cannot try to alter that, because if we do, we're going to find ourselves in trouble. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. We're going to do our affirmations, and then from our affirmations, our declaration, and then we're going to close this portion of our class out. After we do our affirmations, we're going to have a song. Repeat with me. I purpose to develop my ruach.
I purpose to develop my ruach.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I am born again.
I am born again.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I have the life and nature
I have the life and nature
of Yahuwah in my ruach.
of Yahuwah in my ruach.
That life is
That life is
the Torah of Yasharal.
the Torah of Yasharal.
I purpose to walk in
I purpose to walk in
the Torah of life.
the Torah of life.
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahush,
Yahush,
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's knowledge,
Yahuwah's knowledge
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's Ahab,
Yahuwah's Ahab
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's power,
Yahuwah's power
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's wisdom
Yahuwah's wisdom
is in me.
is in me.
He is teaching me.
He is teaching me.
He is.
He is leading.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
The Ruach,
The Ruach
Hakodesh
HaKodesh
of Yahuwah in me
of Yahuwah in me
is leading me.
is leading me.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll walk in the Torah,
I'll walk in the Torah.
Yahush,
Yahush,
our Mashiach.
our Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let us have a song, please.
Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me
To be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and kodesh, tried and true, sanctuary for you. Yahuwah prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. God will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Who will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Who will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Who will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Who will prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and golden, tried and true, and with thanksgiving,
do our confession. Repeat with me. Abba Yahuwah.
Abba Yahuwah.
In the name of Yahush.
In the name of Yahush.
Our Mashiach.
Our Mashiach.
We subdue ignorance.
We subdue ignorance.
With Torah truth.
With Torah truth.
And through this Torah knowledge.
And through this Torah knowledge.
We claim healing.
We claim
shalom.
shalom.
And deliverance.
And deliverance.
We decree.
We decree
Torah
truth.
in the lives.
In the lives
of your people.
Of your people.
Our people.
Our people.
Yasharal.
Yasharal.
We unite.
We unite.
Not to fight.
Not to fight.
Not to fight.
Not to fight.
Each other.
Each other.
Each other.
Each other.
Each other.
Each other.
But the enemy,
But the enemy
of our belief.
Of our belief.
So,
And it is so.
Shabbat Shalom, and it is so. Let us bow before our King as we recite this with the hymn. Repeat with me. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you.
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock,
my rock,
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you.
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock,
my rock,
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We have just recited to him 19 and 14. You may be seated in the presence of the other. Let us turn our attention to Kepha, chapter 2. We're going to look at some verses in chapter 1. I pray that everyone's Shabbat has been going great thus far.
Yes.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Just excited about what he is going to say to us, to refresh us, encourage us, help us stay on the right track so that we are able to accomplish what he has set forth us and cause us to be awakened as a people to accomplish. He didn't wake us up to become one another's enemy, but he woke us up that we will truly be the people to show forth his praises and to show forth his wisdom and to show forth his power. So it's important that we understand that. We're going to look at a few verses in, like I say, in Kepha, chapter 1, and we're going to turn our attention to chapter 2. We're going to start with verse 1. We're going to begin with verse 1. And Kepha is addressing the children of Yasharal, the dispersed. Many times this, the chapter 1 or the book of Kepha has been misinterpreted and it has been used in the wrong manner. But clearly, if we read it, we will see 6 verses.
Kepha, an apostle of Yahuwah HaMashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia Minor, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of the power, the Abba, through sanctification of the Ruach, to obedience of the blood of HaMashiach. Esteem and shalom be multiplied to you. Baruch be the power and the Abba of our Master Yahushua Mashiach, which according to his abundant mercy has birthed us again to a lively hope by the resurrection of Yahushua Mashiach from the dead, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled in Shemayim for you, who are kept by the power through faith, through belief, through salvation, ready to be revealed at the end of time, in which you greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, you're in heaviness through manifold temptations. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, I'm going to read it from the Abrahamic Covenant writings, because I want us to see it here, and then I'm debating on if I'm going to read it from here as well. It reads, Kepha, an apostle of Yahushua the Mashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia Minor, Turkey, and Bithynia, northwest Turkey, elect according to the knowledge of power, the Abba, through the sanctification of the Ruach, to obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahushua the Mashiach, esteemed and shalom be multiplied to you. Through sanctification of the Ruach. Sanctification means to be set aside. Baruch be the power and the Abba of our Mashiach. Right here, he is addressing and making it known that Yahush is the son of the Mashiach, of the Abba, which according to his abundant mercy has birthed us again to a lively hope by the resurrection of Yahush Mashiach from the dead. We continue reading. To an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, and that fades not away, reserved in Shemayim for you, who are kept by the power through belief. Now you got to understand, to salvation, ready to be revealed at the end of time. Whenever we see that word belief or maybe faith in your writings, it is when you see it in the renewed covenant, it takes us back to the Shema Yasharal, or here Yasharal in Devarim 6 and 4, and to Torah obedience. So he is not speaking just off the top of his head. His instructions and his message directly to who? Yasharal.
That's right.
To the dispersed. And so it is important that we understand that he's speaking directly to us. And which you greatly rejoice, listen at this, though now for a season, if need be, if is conditional, you are in heaviness through manifold temptations, the proven character of your belief, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it be tried with fire, might be found to praise and esteem and beauty at the appearing of Yahush Mashiach. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now, with that being said, we're going to jump down to verse. Let's see if I'm going to jump down to verse 25. No, let's jump to 22. To verse 22. Because I'm setting up a platform because we're going into chapter 2. Let's jump down to verse 22. All of this is relevant, but I want to deal with these verses going into chapter 2. No, let's see. No, let's read all of it. No, we're going to go back. No. We're going to read all of it. All right, I read to verse 8. No, I read verse 7. Let's go ahead. Let's read all of chapter 1. Starting with verse 8. Let's read all the way to 14.
Whom having not seen, you love, in whom you exalt with unspeakable and esteemed joy, yet not seeing, but believing, obtaining the goal of your belief, a deliverance of lives. Concerning this deliverance, the prophets have sought out and searched out, prophesying concerning the favor for you, searching to know what sort of time the Ruach which was in them was pointing out concerning Messiah, when it was bearing witness beforehand the suffering of Hamashiach and the esteems that will follow. To whom it was revealed that they were serving not themselves, but you, in these matters, which now have been announced to you through those who brought the good news to you by the Ruach HaKodesh, sent from Shemayim, into which messengers long to look into. Therefore, having girded up your loins of your mind, being sober, yet your expectation perfectly upon the favor that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, as obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lusts in your ignorance.
And it is so. Verse 8, whom having not seen you have, in whom though now you see him not, yet believing you rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of beauty. Now, belief can only come through trust and believing. And we will only be expecting a Mashiach, or we will only be expecting a Mashiach if there was a Torah. No Torah means no Mashiach. So once again, the word belief takes us back to the Torah, to trusting Yahuwah. So you have to understand, Keeper's foundational approach in chapter 1 is to prepare Yasharal to receive and to move in what they've already already have heard. It's conditioning. You know how you condition your hair? When your hair has been damaged and it's gone through over processing, or it's gone through a whole lot of stuff. Well, Keeper is conditioning the people to listen and to bring them into a place of remembrance. Of remembrance. We need to be reminded every now and then of who we are and our purpose, and even when trials come into our lives. Sometimes we don't look at certain things as being a trial. Even when people be obnoxious towards you or be ignorant and be stupid, that's yet a trial. And knowing how to respond instead of reacting is what we need to be reminded of. Because it's easy to become a reactor because of things we dealt with. So listen what he's saying. This is what he is sharing with those of the dispersion. Now listen what he says in verse 9. Obtaining the goal of your belief, even the deliverance of your souls, of which deliverance the prophets have sought and searched diligently, who prophesied of the esteem that should come to you. Now watch, they searched diligently of these things, and they spoke of it, and a record and a memorial for us to follow. So for everybody that constantly denounces and speaks against the renewed covenant, you have not known the voice of the prophets. Because the prophets spoke of that time.
Right.
Yasharal, as Keeper, is speaking to the believing community of Yasharal, those who believe in the Hebrew scripture. Now, this is where the difference comes in. Because if you believe in the Christian scriptures, then you're going to renounce, denounce, and you're going to blatantly walk away from the truth. Or you're not going to accept it. So he's speaking to what kind of community? Believing community. When you speak to believers, your conversation and your diction, vocabulary is going to be completely different when you speak to a non-believer. It's going to be different. So what is he doing? He's setting up a platform. Once again, he is bringing them into remembrance of these very things. This is what he says here. I'm going to look at verse 11. Searching what manner of time the Ruach of Mashiach, which was in them, did signify, when it testified beforehand the sufferings of Mashiach and the beauty that should follow. Who is he talking about? Once again, the prophets. Because they did have the Ruach, but the Ruach rested upon them and did not dwell in them as she can dwell in us on this young. This is also key. Without the Ruach, you can't hear. You need a hearing aid. You need the aid of a hearer, which is the Ruach. Without the Ruach, we won't be able to discern between right and wrong. So it's important that we understand, just as there's counterfeit money that gets over on people, there are also counterfeit spirits. Deceiving, lying spirits. Remember, a lying spirit went down and got into the mouths of the prophets of Baal. So it's important that we have an ear to hear and know truth and know the direction that the Abba desires to lead us. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And once again, he is not the author of confusion. We need to follow what the word says. They searched it. To whom it was revealed that not to themselves, but to us they did serve the things. Now, once again, he's not going to, now I know many people ain't gonna like what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it. He's not gonna reveal everything to everybody because everybody can't handle everything. That's just like trying to give a newborn baby something they're not ready for. Many of you have heard me testify and say that when Jalen was a baby, we tried to give him a microscopic piece of bread. And you would think that we gave him a fistful of meat, because when it got on the back of his palate, he started gagging like we had gave him a loaf of bread. But his palate was not ready for meat or anything solid. So when it got on his palate, the first thing it did was provoke what? A regurgitation response. If it would have been liquid, it would have been different. He was not mature enough, or his palate was not mature to receive solid food. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
The prophets searched and searched for what we have now. They served in these things to give it to us so that we would be qualified and be well equipped. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
To whom it was revealed, not to themselves, but to us they did serve the things which are now reported to you by them that have preached the Besorah. To you, the Ruach HaKodesh, set apart spirit, sent down from Shemayim, which things the heavenly messengers desire to look into. Therefore, gird up the loins of your mind. If he's telling them to gird it up, that means it's been loose. To gird something up means pull it in, tighten it up. Therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober. In other words, your mind is also the seat of your strength. Because if you think it, if you are a person, we know the writings in Tehillim says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. However you think is going to determine not just your altitude, but your destination. And the path is going to take for you to get there. So when he's telling them to gird up their loins, the loins of their mind, he's telling them to gird up the strength of their processing center. Pull it in. Don't let it be so loose. Just because it glitters doesn't mean it's gold. Just because it tastes like candy don't mean it's candy. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
They say antifreeze to dogs is very sweet. That's why they tell you be careful with it. But it's not edible. It's not edible. And people yet that are careless keep it out. But some people put it out to keep certain dogs out of their yard. Kill them. Yeah. It's against the law in California and other places to have it out and around your yard in certain cups. Because it kills dogs instantly. They take it because it's sweet. Sucralose is sweet too. And it'll kill you dead. And it's approved by the FDA. What's it called? Saccharin is deadly too. It causes cancer. But it's been approved by the FDA. So just because it's approved by the majority and by those that say, oh, it's no harm unless you get a whole lot of it in you, there's a problem. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So it's important that we be careful and gird up the strength of our mind. Be sober. To be sober means don't be drunk. And that's just not drunk with wine. Don't you know you could be sober with information? I mean, you could be inebriated, and you could be drunk with erroneous teachings and all the rest of that stuff. You can be intoxicated with stuff that's error. And hope to the end for the esteem that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yahushua Mashiach. Even understanding and knowing who he is a revelation to many, and many still a mystery, and many a stumbling block. As obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the evil desires in your former ignorance. Now you have to understand, once again, the reason he is addressing these the people is so that he can bring to them a message that is going to help them stabilize their lives. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we can be loose cannons. We can. And without the guidance, and first and foremost, without the Ruach HaKodesh in our lives, we are loose cannons. Because now we just run and we blab everything. And we just say what we think we should say, and we just do what we want to do without any kind of restrictions and confinements on our lives, which is error. They're over in Yasharo, where they raise sheep. They have a corral. When the shepherds go in to get water or drink, all the sheep go into one corral. Everybody's sheep. But when that shepherd comes out and makes a certain sound or does a certain thing, all his or her sheep come out. And everybody else sheep stay in. That is because they know the voice of their shepherd.
That's right.
It is a very hurtful thing and bad thing for a shepherd to raise a sheep. And then when he or she says, come on, let's go. And the sheep stays in there thinking they know. And they don't know the voice of their shepherd. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You know what that sheep is? That's not a sheep. That's a goat. Because only goats buck. And only goats you have to fight and pull. Sheep will come in willingly. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Goats won't. Goats buck, and they buck, and then what do? They'll knock others over. They butt. They constantly butt heads because they're goats and not sheep. There's a difference. As obedient children, obedient to who? Parents, leadership. Are you hearing me? Authority. Not fashioning yourselves according to the evil desires in your former ignorance. Meaning, he's talking to them, don't be like you were. You were ignorant in that time. Now, if you're walking in truth, what is your problem? You ought to not have the same disposition and same mentality as you had when you were not in truth. There's supposed to be a change. But as he who has called you is set apart, so be ye set apart in all manner of what? Conversation. He's saying to them, in other words, if your conversation is not going to keep you in that platform and keep you as obedient children, then you don't have no business indulging in it. I've heard elderly people say a child has no place in an adult's conversation. And many would say, but I'm 25. If you still 25 and I'm 51, you still a child. Seriously. You 30, you still a child. Because I still have age on you. Not only do I have age, I have experience. So it's important that we understand that he's teaching them, stay within your guidelines, stay in your lane. That is what he is saying to them. That's what he's saying to us. If there's an elder 60, 70, or 80 years old, that's my elder. And watch this. Even if they say something that I may not agree with, I still have to respect them. I have no right trying to stand toe to toe with them and trying to basically say things unless the Ruach HaKodesh tells me to. And even then, you have to be careful and know. There's a way that seems right unto man, but the end thereof is destruction, also death in some renderings. Because it is written, be you set apart, for I am set apart. He's telling us to be set apart. We don't do everything that everybody else does. He is quoting from the Torah and Weikra 19:2. Grab that, 19:2. Weikra, which is Leviticus 19:2.
And it is
All right, read that for me.
Leviticus 19
And 2. Mm-hmm.
reads, Speak unto all the congregation of the children of Yasharal, and say unto them, Ye shall be Kodesh, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am Kodesh.
And it is so. Is that a comma or a period?
At the end, too.
Mhm.
It's a period.
Okay. Okay, read verse 3 too.
Ye shall fear every man his Ema and his Abba, and keep my Shabbatim.
Mm-hmm.
I am Yahuwah, your power.
So down. 19:2 and 3. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it's in the writings. It's important, once again, this is where Kepha is quoting from. Why? Because there had to be a problem going on that needed to be addressed. That needed to be addressed. You don't address an issue until an issue is an issue. And he was addressing it. Listen what he says. And if you call on the Abba, who without partiality of persons judges according to every man's work, pass the time of your sojourning here in fear. For as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things such as silver and gold, nor from your futile way of life inherited from your Abbas, but with the precious blood of Yahushua Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. Once again, very important for us to understand. This tradition was not the Torah of Moshe, but a form of commandments made by the rabbis of the first century who taught that according to the rabbinic works, people could attain salvation. This is what is being spoken of in this verse. Now, when we look at verse 19, and he says, but with the precious blood of the Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. Pointing to the feast of the Yom of Atonement, fulfilled in Mashiach, not abrogated, not done away with. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important that we understand these things. Who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these times for you, who by him do believe in power that raised him up from the dead. Once again, we believe in the Abba that raised him up from the dead and gave him beauty, that our belief and hope might be in him. So once again, it is important that we understand that our hope, our belief, everything is in the Abba. Everything that has been done and will continue to be done is always pointing us back to who? To Yahuwah, our Abba. Back to our Abba. So it is important that we understand, once again, his addressing them in this manner to prepare them. All right, let's read 22 to 25, and then we're going to chapter 2.
Now that you have cleansed your lives in obeying the truth through the Ruach to unfeigned brotherly ahab one another fervently with a clean heart, having been born again, not of corruptible seed, but incorruptible, through the living Torah of Mashiach, which remains forever. Because all flesh is as grass, and all the esteem of man as the flower of the grass. The grass withers, and its flowers fall away. But the word of Yahuwah remains forever. And this is the word announced as Beshor to you.
And it is so. Now, let's look at this. Seeing you have cleansed your souls in obeying the truth, to unfeigned ahab of the Yashralite brethren, seeing that you ahab one another with your heart fervently. Now, when it says brethren, it means all, because you can't ahab the brothers and hate the sisters, because we are a nation. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Once again, it's being addressed. This footnote says missing reading and manuscripts through the Ruach. The truth is idiomatic expression for obeying the Torah of Moshe, which revealed the coming of King Mashiach. And we must obey, listen to this, Torah to set apart ourselves, which refines us daily. So in order to understand that, he also told us to ahab our neighbors as we what?
How about ourselves?
Ahabs ourselves. So that includes what? All of Yahshua.
Yeah.
So it's important that we understand you can't be a cherry picker. Well, I'm ahab the men, but I'm gonna hate the women because it's through, them that everything is always corrupted, always corrupt. So it's important that we get ourselves right. And this is what Keeper was addressing and dealing with. Now, once again, let's look up at verse 23. Being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible by the living word, meaning Torah, of power, which remains for how long? Forever. Meaning it remains forever. It was not done away with. His instructions. The word is the idiomatic expression here for believing and doing Torah commandments. The seed from above will only flourish in hearts of flesh and not in hearts of stone. It won't flourish. You can grow plants, but the true test that plant is healthy is it produces fruit. We had in the first year of growing in our garden, we had pumpkin and we had vines all over the place. And we had tiny knots coming up and they would bud, but we couldn't we couldn't get it to produce fruit. We learned that you can only have them about 9 feet. The vine can only be about 9 feet. Anything other than that would be too long because now the root and the stem would basically be trying to nourish the root and the stem instead of nourishing the fruit. So we couldn't produce. So what I am saying is just because something looks fruitful, because it's growing, if it has no fruit, it is barren. And just because it grows doesn't mean it's fruitful. The fruit is the test. The fruit. Because if it produces fruit, then it's fruitful. If it does not, it's not. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And watch this. There are times that every vine, tree, fruit has a season. And some things can be planted out of season. And if it's planted out of season and the conditions are not right, it's not going to be able to produce fruit. And if it does, it's going to be stunted. It won't, it's not going to do right. So it's important that we understand that. Are you following me?
Yes.
In order for the Torah to be made manifest in us, it has to be planted in a heart of flesh, not stone. Because it won't produce. It won't produce. We have to be fruitful. Many times people look at the external. You need to look at the internal.
Right.
Because that's where fruit comes. How is my attitude? How is my character? Is it flawed? Is there room for improvement? That's where the pruning comes in. The Abba will prune us. But we have to, we have to let him prune us. I've yet to see a tree say, don't cut that off. Leave me alone. Don't cut that off. Because a tree understands the husbandman is the one that takes care of it. So it's important that we understand that. Verse 24, for all flesh is as grass, and all the beauty of it, as the flower of grass. The grass withers and the flower falls off. But listen at this. But the word of Yahuwah endures for how long?
Forever.
Say it again.
Forever.
Forever. And this is the word which by the Beshorah is preached to who? To you, to me. Now, with that being said, because it does not pass or fades away, he's not going to give us something that's tainted. There was a question, that was posed, and not so much a question, but a statement. Well, how do you know what is being given you is true? How do you know it ain't a lie? because he's not going to let me get a lie. Now, someone say, but how do you know for sure? Because I believe him. And if something comes to my door that's not right, he's going to correct it. He's going to correct it because I trust him. When you don't trust him, he can't do that. He can't do it. This is why this is given to them to understand that he didn't bring them to a place where they were to be deceived and to be destroyed and to be broken and to be tossed here and there when trials and tribulations come. But he was setting them up to show them the character that they are supposed to possess, the characteristics that we as a people are supposed to possess. If the Torah endures forever and it's in you and it's in me, guess what? We will endure. But if it's not, we won't. It is a preserver. This brings us to chapter 2. Chapter 2 is what we're going to deal with. I wanted to bring forth chapter 1 so that we can understand what is being addressed and what is being said. Now, let's begin. Let's read 8 verses.
Still in Peter?
Yes, keep it.
First Peter.
Chapter 2.
First Timothy, chapter 2. Start from the first.
First one.
Wherefore, laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisies and envies and all evil speaking, as newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word that you may grow thereby. If so, be you have tasted that Yahuwah is gracious, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of power and precious. Yet also lively stones are built up a spiritual house, a set apart priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Yahuwah by Yahushua Mashiach. Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, lay in Zion on a chief cornerstone, elect precious, and he that believes on him shall not be confounded. Unto you, therefore, which believe he is precious, but unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and it is known.
And it is so. All right. Therefore, laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisies and envies and all backbiting. Now he's laying the platform. After he addressed them in that first to get their attention, now in chapter 2, he's dealing with the issues that are at hand. Now, when we look at that in here, let me go back to and envies and all backbitings. Let me go down to, as newborn infants desire the spiritual milk of the word that you may grow up to salvation. Now, this is where many issues come about in this verse right here. Because don't nobody want to be no baby. Don't nobody want to be a baby. Nobody wants to be a baby and start from the very beginning. People want to jump in and be already in college. And you haven't desired the sincere milk of his instructions yet. Why? Because the moment we get into this walk, we're already, if we're not careful, thrust in a rush. Everything is coming so fast. And so sometimes the first thing we think is we got to become and do what everybody else is doing, which is wrong. Because when a baby is born, you don't throw a baby up and say, okay, now you out the womb. Now it's time for you to get a job. And you have to understand there are exceptions, but this doesn't make it a rule. There was a brand new baby out of the womb, not even 20 minutes. And the lady had the baby up on her arm, and his little fat, beautiful self walking. You see his little feet just a moving like he trying to walk, and he wasn't even 20 minutes out of the womb. That's an exception. That's not a rule. So to force that upon all babies is error. Because all babies are not born like that. You still have babies that are born that are not slow, but they're moving at their pace.
Right.
And you have to understand, a mother that has many, like I do, I have none. And each one of my births were different, and each one of my children were and still are different. So you can't impose upon one what you impose upon the other. But at the same time, rules of the house remain the same. They remain the same. Now, understand what's going on here. He is telling them to desire as infants, meaning that many of them had got to a point that they didn't want to be no infant. Why should I want to know about? I know that, but that's, man, milk. I don't need no milk. Give me some meat. And that's why many are getting strangled and choked to death, because they're trying to eat something they're not ready for. Ain't no nursing baby gonna stop nursing, look at the mom and say, I don't want this no more. Give me some meat. Give me some stew with some potatoes. Did you not know, and I'm saying this for those that may not know, that breast milk is the best milk? Because there are two levels of that kind of milk. When it comes the thin, and then what I like, one nurse said to me, she said, after the baby is nursed, and that second wave is like the cheesecake of it. It's the thicker, fattier milk. So while people are just taking that milk and saying, man, this is great, but you haven't stayed long enough on the milk to know how much more you can get from that milk and how much fatty substance is in it, because you let somebody tell you, you don't need that no more. They nursed babies till they were 3 and 4 years of age. Meaning that milk it can sustain you for every level until it's time for you to be weaned. Some people wean themselves. Yahuwah didn't wean you. You weaned yourself off of milk. And now many people are struggling because they weaned themselves off of the milk. Milk ain't a bad thing. And I ain't talking about cow's milk. I'm talking about the milk, the substance, the fatty substance that puts fat on your bones, makes that baby fat and rosy. You see them babies, we call them fat and rosy. Like that has to be a breastfed baby. Why? Because they so fat and it's not bloated. That's not a fake fat. That's not bloating from synthetic milk. It's healthy. Fat, rosy, just as chunky as they want to be. All the way to their 3 and 4 years of age, it can sustain them. But because of people and their ignorance to this, I don't know, baby need to be on no breast at no 3 years or 4 years of age. They breastfed them till they was 3 and sometimes 4. Because that milk truly does the body great.
Sure.
Yes.
But now, people feel like, I need to wean myself. But the Abba didn't wean you off that milk. You weaned yourself. And the bad thing about weaning yourself is that now you have to get a substitute or synthetic milk. Because in order for your bones to grow, and in order for you to have calcium, you gotta have milk. You have to have it. Have strong bones, healthy eyes, healthy teeth. You cannot get it unless you have calcium. Reason why sometimes many are getting in and can't hold themselves is because they didn't get the fat of the milk. They just got enough in their mouths to say, I'm full. Don't just get full, get satisfied. What does that mean? I'm not saying get satisfied to where you don't want more, but when you're satisfied, when a baby is satisfied, a baby will stop nursing. Because they're satisfied. They're satisfied and they'll stop and they'll grow. And it's not one of those you have to force yourself to grow. You grow because it's the proper way, it's the right channel to follow. And so it is important that we understand this. And so as he's telling them, as newborn infants, and one thing about a baby, whatever you put to their mouth, that's what they're going to take. And because we have people out there, now listen to what I'm about to say, that are pedophiles, take advantage of infants and babies and say, hey, you're a baby, but you need this because this will help you grow. You don't need to grow fast. You just need to grow stable. People trying to hurry up and grow fast. The Abba knows when you were born. He knows how many steps you got to take. He knows when he's ready to wean you. Stop weaning yourself. And those that are weaning people, the Abba's going to deal with you. I don't present meat to babies. When Jonathan was a baby and he was sitting in my lap and I was eating, and he put his hand on my plate trying to get that food, I took it right in his hand. You ain't ready for that. Get out of my plate. You know, let him try it. Let him try it. No, he's not going to be choking because I'm going to let him try something because he feels like, because he wants to taste it, he can put other stuff in his mouth too. Get that out your mouth. You ain't ready for that. And because he was sitting there, macaroni and cheese is kind of soft. But one thing about it, when it gets in your digestive system, if you can't digest it, it may be great in your mouth, but now you all stopped up and constipated. Now you got to have a laxative, either through the mouth or you got to have an enema. Y'all follow me?
Yes.
Because you just had to have it. And because there are times that we have people that say, well, let them try it. No, you're not trying it because you're not ready for it. Your mouth may think you're ready, but your body is not ready to digest it. I said, no, you can't eat that yet. You ain't ready for that yet. But when you're ready for it, you can eat as much as you want. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
According to the instructions of the Abba, that you may grow up to. Reading in the manuscripts is grow up to salvation. The spiritual milk is baby steps in Torah leading to full compliance. See, the reason why, once again, we have so much bickering and fussing is because people are not maturing and developing. If we all nurse and we nurse at the appropriate time and the Abba weans everybody at between 3 and 4 years of age, there's no way we're going to be missing one another. We all going to be right in that same area. Those that were weaned at 3 will be able to identify with those that were weaned at 3. Those that were weaned at 4 will be able to identify those weaned at 4. But the bottom line is we all will be able to identify with one another. You got babies trying to be teachers. You got babies trying to be scholars. You ain't gonna like it, but I'm gonna tell it. You got babies that don't know how to hold their peace. You got babies out here trying to do what they are not qualified to do because they got a piece of meat. They got that flavor in their mouth. Now they want that instead of milk that's going to build them for the long haul. If we're not walking in complete and total compliance to the instructions of the Abba, we still babies. And a baby does not stand up in the mirror and say, I'm ready for meat. You know who determines that? The Ima and the Papa. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You don't let somebody take your baby and start spoon. You ain't gonna let nobody take your baby. You need to get him some cereal. No, I don't. The reason why they put cereal in milk, the synthetic milk, is because it's thin and it don't hold. That's why they got to punch holes in bottles this big and chock it full of cereal and give it to them. And then they got to put Karo syrup in there to keep them from getting constipated. Because it doesn't have any substance. Somebody say substance.
Substance.
Say it again, substance.
Substance.
When it does not have substance, you will be hungry again and again and again and again. And watch this. And this is where people start going and eating up. But you've ever heard people that go to nightclubs, and when they leave one nightclub, they go to the next club because they haven't got their food. They're not what? Satisfied. Bar hopping. Club hopping. because they ain't satisfied. They ain't satisfied. So they got to go to the next one because they didn't get what they wanted at the first one. But watch this: for every bar you go to or every nightclub you go to, you picking up something else. Now, by the time you finish, you might be full, but full of what? And are you going to regret it? Or are you going to know to regret it? Or are you going to be so disillusioned or detached that you won't even know to regret what happened or what was done? You don't follow me?
Yes. Yes.
Same thing with how we handle the writings and how we handle coming into this. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand. Now he's addressing this. If indeed you have tasted that the master is merciful. Now let's go to Tehillim 34. Let's go to Tehillim chapter 34. And we're going to start at verse 8. And we're going to look at Dawood. And I want to look at Dawood because I believe that when Kepha was making reference to this, he was thinking along the lines of what Dawood had experienced and wanted them to remember. Because remember, they were readers of the writings. Don't ever believe, even though people will fight you tooth and nail, want to criticize the renewed covenant, talking about ain't no such thing as a new covenant. I'll agree with you, ain't no such thing as a new covenant. But we're not going to denounce the renewed covenant. Everything that they based their lives upon was the Torah. That's why he is dealing with them from the Torah, because that's what they had.
Right.
This is how they were able to identify the Mashiach, through the Torah.
That's right.
So here we are in chapter 34, and let's look at verse 8. All right, read that for me, please. And read to 19 for me, please.
Taking 34, verses 8 to 19. Coming from the NIV. Taste and see Yahuwah is great. Baruch atah, the man who takes refuge in him. Fear Yahuwah, you his believers. For those who fear him, like nothing. The lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek Yahuwah like no great thing.
All right, now hold it right there. Now you got to understand why Dawood is addressing this in chapter 34. If you look over into Samuel Aleph, chapter 21, verse 14, hold that and let's go there. Let's go to Aleph Shamuel, chapter 21, and we'll look at verse 14. Hold that right there, because you want to see chapter 21 of Samuel Aleph, verse 14.
21.
And we're going to, I want you to read that for me. Chapter 21. And I want you to read verse 14.
Aleph Samuel 21 and 13 and 14. 13 and 14. And he changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scribbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. Then said Ahish unto his servants, Lo, ye see the man is mad. Wherefore then have ye brought him to me? And it is so.
And it is so. Now you have to understand, Dawood has just went to Nob, and he was with Achimelech, the priest. And as he was there, his men were hungry and they ate the showbread. Now they're getting, because he was on the run from Shaul. Now he's here. And through all of this, everything is going through, and went to Achish, the sovereign of Gath. Now he done left from the priest, got the sword. Now he goes here. But the servants of Achish said to him, is this not Dawood, the sovereign? Did they not sing of him to each other in dances, saying, Shaul smote his thousands and Dawood his 10,000. Now this is the chatter. Now he in a situation that now it's just him and a few people, and it's like, oh boy, what am I going to do? And Dawood took these words to heart and was very much afraid of Achish, the sovereign of Gath, because now you start thinking, look who's in. Remember in Pitch Black, whoever kills the one in control takes it all.
Mm-hmm.
So now Dawood is thinking this man might try to get a little froggy and might want to kill me because I am the sovereign of the land. Now look at what it says. And changed behavior before them and feigned madness in their hands and scratched on the doors of the gate and let his salva run down on his beard. Dawood played crazy. He heard that and his character immediately changed. He went into that mode. I don't know if y'all ever seen it, y'all, on Facebook. It was these two ladies in the car, y'all. And one of the girl got stopped and she said, oh, I ain't got my license. She said, if they find out I ain't got my license, this and this, she said, I'm going to jail. She said, girl, I'm about to act one. That girl got to acting like she was a cripple. When I tell y'all, she did it so well. She pulling on the girl, biting her. Came and she didn't ask for her ID. She said, I'm trying to hurry and get her home because, she upset. And she said, well, I don't want her to be upset. She said, well, let me do this real quick and I'm going to let you go. And so she go back. She said, well, girl, she's still looking. Y'all, when I tell you the girl should have gotten a Grammy Award. She said, she's coming back. And she's sitting over there doing and acting all up. So by the time she came back and she's sitting over there hollering and crying and, scratching at her. And the police said, okay, well, get her home because I don't want her to be upset. They drive off. Now, everybody, had their little say, well, that's not funny because she's what was it saying that she's mocking? She wasn't mocking them. She was trying to keep them going to jail. She didn't want to go to jail. So she played it off. Dawood did not want to be confronted or engaged because he wasn't ready. So what did he do? This boy started slobbering at the mouth, scratching on the door, probably talking, and people with him probably thinking, well, what happened? What just happened here? What is it that he's doing? Now, it says, madness, he became feigned madness in their hands and scratched on the doors of the gate and let his saliva run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, look, you see the mad in like a madman, why do you bring him to me? Am I short of madmen that you have brought this one to act as a madman near me? Should this one come into my house? So it's like, no, he coming in my house anyway. So he got out of that. So now let us go back to Tehillim chapter 34, where he says, oh, taste and see that Yahuwah is great. Excuse me. Happy is the man that trusts in him. Oh, fear Yahuwah, you his Yashraelite, Kodeshim. For there is no shortage for them that fear him. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger. And that's true. That is the truth. You see that there is a shortage of food for the young lions. He's talking about the lions. But they that seek Yahuwah shall not lack any great thing. Verse 11, continue reading.
Come, my children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of Yahuwah.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever of you Ahab's life and desires to see many great days, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking lies.
Now, is this not what Keeper is addressing to them? Even though he only uses this part of the verse. Let me go back up to it. Where he says in verse 3, if indeed you have tasted that the Abba is great. That is a direct quote from Dawood. And as we continue to read in chapter 2, we're going to see why he quoted that from Tehillim. Finish reading.
Turn from evil and do well.
Mm-hmm.
Seek shalom and pursue it.
Mm-hmm.
The eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are attentive to their cry. The face of Yahuwah is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. The righteous cry out, and Yahuwah hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. Yahuwah is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in war. A righteous man may have many troubles, but Yahuwah delivers him from them all. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, Todah. Now, this is what he begins. We're going to go back to verse 1. Therefore, laying aside all malice and all guile, and hypocrisies, and envies, and all backbiting. Did not Dawood address that as well?
Yes.
Now, remember, he addressed this, but he's talking about the greatness of the Abba after he had encountered Achish during that time of him fleeing from Shaul. You see trials in here. You see all this stuff that's taking place. Now, listen what he says in verse 2. As newborn infants desire the spiritual milk of the word, that you may grow up to salvation. If indeed you have tasted that the Mashiach, or that the Master, is great or is merciful. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You have to understand that Keeper is reflecting back on what Dawood encountered. And now he's using this as a platform to bring the children of Yasharal into one soundness, and to bringing them into believing and trusting in the Abba, in spite of what they're dealing with. Because as we continue to read, we're going to see that they're dealing with trials and tribulations. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right, let's read. Verse 4. You read all the way to 8, right? No, in Keefa. We stop right there. All right. We're going, okay. If indeed you have tasted that the Master is merciful, draw near to him as to a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by power and precious. All living stones are built up as a spiritual house, set apart priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to power by Yahushua the Mashiach. Now, once again, he is giving them a platform, and he is showing them how they are to conduct themselves. He's not talking to them from a perspective or from a view that they know nothing of. He's speaking to them on a level that they can identify with. Now, if you hear, now he says, draw near to him as to a living stone, rejected indeed by men. And we know this even to Yom, that people reject him. Even we are rejected. But chosen by power and precious. We are chosen just as he was chosen, and precious. Now, the only ones who are chosen are the 12 tribes of Yasharal. After their forefather, Yaakov, and the one who lives is the main stone, or rock is Yahushua the Mashiach. Nobody else. Are y'all following me? Yes. And when you begin to talk to people from this perspective, from this truth, you're going to be criticized and even called a racist. Mm-hmm. You're going to be called everything but what you really are. Because unless you tell them they have a slice of the pie or a slice of the cake, mm-hmm. they get very offended and become very nasty towards you. Now, listen what it says. You also are living stones. Now remember, Yahushua is a stone that was rejected. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Meaning we got it. We're gonna hold fast to what he has told us. We're not going to be moved. We are living stones, not dead stones. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And he's raising us up he's raising us in Bereshit 1:1 to the raised bet for the house of Yahuwah. This is what this is referring to in verse 4. A house, no, I'm sorry, in verse 5. In verse 5, that's what they're referring to. Stones, living stones, we're living stones. Let us look at the footnote for Matit Yahu 3:9. Let's look at Matit 3:9. I'm sorry. I'm going to look at the footnote there, and you all go to Matthews. 3 and 9. When you have the same, it's so. All right, read that for me.
Chapter 3, verse 9. And do not think to say to yourselves, we have Abraham as Abba. For I say to you, that power is able to raise up children to Abraham from these stones.
Mm-hmm. And it is so, meaning us. We're those stones. Of the stones is not a physical stone as we may think, but of the people of Yasharal. The root word for the Hebrew Ibram had on us, we have the three characteristics of the word for stone, aleph, bet, and now here is the allegory. Aleph, Abba, the source of all things. Bet, house to the Abba, and his son, Yahush, who is king over it, and gathering the two houses of Yasharal. They are the houses of Yehuda and the house of Yasharal. Noon, the picture, I'm going to read this, the picture, the sign of nations where Yahush is sent to gather the exiles from the scattered house of Yasharal. This is what, when you look at what he says that also when you look at Yahush, the son of Nun, that he was considered a fish. Now, I don't subscribe, you all can see. And the reason I don't subscribe to that is because we also know that the fish also, Dagon also represents the fish. And so there are some things we don't subscribe to. But I'll put it out there because sometimes there are those that believe that. And that's why they use that. Many believe that the ichthus, the fish that you see, that's what that is. But we know that that was not what the children of Yasharal used. That's a not a phallic symbol, but that's an idol symbol, which also represented Dagon. So once again, there are some things that I will read out and bring out, and there are some things that I won't. Now, but what Yehukanan is saying is if you are not obedient, then Yahuwah can raise up children from the house of Yasharal who are scattered in the nations, who will come and worship him, not forgetting that the scattered children of Yasharal are the elect. So it's almost in this manner. We know that Yahush came through the line of Yehuda, right?
Yes.
Now we know that there are 12 tribes, but we know through those 12 tribes, there were 2 that came that I will say that Yaakov purposely sold. And that was through Rebecca, right?
Yes.
Benjamin and Joseph. Are y'all following?
Yes.
So these are the 2 that we would call, Ahab children. I'm not saying that he didn't Ahab his other children, but because, it'd be 3. Thank you. But what I am saying is that because we have come to understand there are 10 that are scattered, but then there were 2, yet the house of Yehuda that remained. Y'all follow me?
Yes.
Now, what he was telling them, he said, now look, if you don't want to do it, and you've been here, they are of the dispersed. I will raise them up to take your place. Now, mind you, we all in this. But if you're first and I'm 9, even though we still all in the line, I'm going to be put in your position and you're going to be put in mine, even though we still all in the line. Now, to many, well, it doesn't matter as long as we're in line. Yes, it does matter. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because you don't want to be replaced. And not replaced with an outsider, but replaced with one that has been of the dispersion. Because we still are all one. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is how this works. It's not like we're going to grab somebody from somebody else's classroom. When we were in school and I was in elementary and we would, they would set it up. And if you talked and you were at the front, my maiden name was Watson. So I was at the back of the bus. Then you had people that name was Aaron or whatever starts with an A for a last name, or you have Brown or Adams, thank you, and so forth. So if you were talking and doing wrong, then she would say, well, I want Watson to come up and take Adam's place. Now, Adam, you get back there because you didn't do right. You're still in line, but you've lost your position. That is what he is saying to them. You can't lose your position. You won't lose your place in this, but you can lose your. All right. Now, do not think or say within yourselves, oh, I say to you that power is able to use these stones to raise up to Abraham, meaning us. Are you following?
Yes.
The problem comes in is many times when people try to put something else into the equation. If 1 + 1 is 2, then why are you trying to add another number? Because 1 + 1 + 1, which equals what? 3. A third wheel. Y'all follow me?
Yes.
He never said a third wheel. This is between us as a house. Y'all follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's important for us to understand. And this is why it is important that we see what he is referring to them, because he's trying to get them to understand. Y'all, it's important that we line up and do what, okay? All right, let's go back to Kepha. Let's go back to chapter 2. All right. Set apart priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to power by Yahushua the Mashiach. Now, we don't offer up animals. We don't offer up those things anymore. But we do offer up what? Prayer, praise, worship. When we look at where he is talking to them in verse 5 still, a set apart priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to power by Yahushua the Mashiach. It has to be acceptable, because just because we offer it up doesn't mean it's acceptable. This is referring back to Devarim 7 and 6, reminding the people that the Torah still stands and that we continue from the service given to Yahshua into the wilderness. This was not to start a new church devoid of Torah of Moshe, but one that believed in it and held it high to bring about the spirit of Torah to its fulfillment. And the fulfillment of Torah is who? The Mashiach. And he's not the end, but he is the extension and takes us further. Are y'all following?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Why is it important for us to understand this? Because if you throw away the key, then you lose what? Access. And then if you don't have the key, then you don't have access. And then if you don't value the key, then you don't know what you're losing if you don't accept it. If you don't accept how valuable the key is. So it's all about understanding the value and where and why we need to put the value in these places. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Prayers with our lips and thanksgiving. It is what we offer. This is why when the writings tell us, let everything that hath breath praise ye the Abba. It is important. I had a person last month to come and tell me that the Abba doesn't, want all that singing. I quickly deleted him and blocked him. I wasn't about to get in a debate with him. Let everything that have breath praise ye Abba Yahuwah. And then we are to enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and we'll enter into his courts with praise. So how can we do this and we don't sing? Now I understand there are certain songs that I won't sing, because if it can't uplift him, I'm not going to sing it. But to tell me that singing is a sin and it's wrong, I'm not going to even debate with you, and I'm not going to waste my time with you. This is how we show forth wisdom and the praise of the Abba. Now watch this. Because it is a spiritual inheritance added to what we already have, the natural inheritance. One does not negate the other. One does not cancel out the other. Are you following me?
Yes.
Many times people think, well, you can't have that. Or people want to say you can't have your cake and your pie at the same time. Well, some people have pudding and cake. And they still going just well, right?
Yes.
So much you can't eat your cake, you can't have your pie and cake too? Who said that? Some of y'all at the baby shower had pudding and cake, right?
Yes.
And everybody's still going well, and everybody's in their right mind, everybody's still 3D, right?
Yes.
Right. So it depends. Are you hearing me? What is your pie and what is your cake? If you are talking about a pork pie and you talking about trying to have a cheesecake, of course you can't have both of them because it's against the rule. It's against the instructions. Because pork is not even food. So are y'all following me?
Yes.
You can't have it in that regard. But if it's of the same substance, then you can have it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You can have it. So it's important that we understand this and that we not find ourselves being delusional about what it is that the Abba wants to convey to us, even as we continue to look at what Keith is saying. All right, let's look at, you read to 8. Let me finish reading. Therefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect and precious, that he that believes on him shall not be put to shame. The only way we won't be put to shame is we've got to believe in the Mashiach.
That's right.
Because if you don't believe in him, you are going to be put to shame. Now, one of the things that people are constantly bickering and fussing over, and we're going to go get Yashiyah 28 and 16 for me. And he's quoting from Yashiyah 28 and 16. Is that people fight and they continually fight, they continue to debate backwards and forth. And they feel like if I got this much information, I'm not going to be made ashamed. It doesn't matter if I'm made ashamed in front of people, long as I'm not made ashamed in front of the Abba. All right, read that for me.
28 and 16.
Yes. 28 and 16.
Take in heart, go about the city, thou harlot, thou hast been forgotten. Make sweet melody, sing many songs, that thou may be remembered.
Read again.
Take a harp, go about the city, thou harlot that has been forgotten. Make sweet melody, sing many songs, that thou may be remembered. And it is.
And it is so. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am laying in Tyson a stone for a foundation, a tried stone.
Oh, no, that was 24 and 16. I will
Read
do
it
that
again for me, please. I'm like, whoa.
Okay. Therefore said you in your power, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone.
And it is so. All right. Once again, he is showing us the writings. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Praise the Abba for him. Because that's what he came to show us how to do. And that is to praise the Abba and give all regard and give all that we have to him, because he was willing to give his own life to please the Abba, to make the Abba happy. That is what we're supposed to do. He's precious to us. And this is why when people do and say things, I get away from them. I won't deal with it. Are you following me?
Yes.
And we should never be comfortable around people that are disrespectful and that talk against them. He's precious to us because he's what? Precious to the Abba. But to them within. Listen. But to them which are what? Disobedient. The stone which the builders rejected, the same is made the head of the corner. Now watch this. And a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. They were appointed to this, but they were disobedient. That's why they stumble. Because they don't want to follow what has been instructed. Have you ever seen somebody tell say, what you? And as soon as they go that way, that rock or whatever that pebble is, oh man, I almost fell. Oh man, I fell. We told you don't go that way. We warned you. And you didn't listen. Why? Because what? Disobedient. He gives the outline to why people stumble. Why people can't believe the Mashiach? Because they're disobedient. They're disobedient. Why are they constantly bickering and fussing about the renewed covenant? Because they're disobedient. And that's why they stumble. And then once again, they weaned themselves. Yahuwah didn't move. And you have to understand something. When a baby gets about 4 years of age, yes, they will get hungry. They'll get hungry. And they will want food. But they're only going to get, or they're only going to take what you give to them. When Jalen was a baby, we introduced food. Because most of the time, when babies are 4 years old, you have to wean them. You do. The only reason why a baby will actually wean himself is because he sees somebody else doing it. But other than that, you see children 3 and 4 years old trying to go in their mama's shirt. You're like, what the? He too big. He's just doing or she's what they know to do. Because they're what? Hungry. So the mama has to say, no, this is what you're getting now. You can't go there no more. Are you hearing me? It is giving you what you need. Now, once again, we don't wean ourselves off of the Torah, period. But we do mature and begin to get a heavier, thicker, meatier substance. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important for us to understand that because I want nobody thinking, well, she said, well, no, you don't. Somebody ever tell you that, you better get away from it. You don't wean yourself off. You mature. And it's no longer milk, but it's a thicker, meaty substance. And it won't choke you out. It won't kill you. It won't kill you. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. And a stone of stumbling, verse 8, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. Were appointed. We are appointed. They were appointed. That's why they continue to stumble. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a treasured people, that you should, now listen as he brings it together now, verse 9, show forth the praises of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Now, once again, he's not just dealing with the individual. In verse 9, he begins to say, we are a chosen what? Generation, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation. Now, yes, I understand he is talking to them in that time and that disposition. That's right, dispensation. But he is also talking to us. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because some things in the writings do have a time frame, and then there are those things that are eternal. Y'all follow me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, he's saying, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a treasured people. That remains consistent of us as a people and generations that will come and continue to come. That does not change. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That you should show forth the praises. Somebody say praises.
Praises.
Of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Now he's telling them, you're no longer in darkness, so stop acting like you're in the dark. Stop acting like you've not been called from one place to another place. Stop acting like that. Stop marking time and move forward. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
This is important. Now watch this. Which in time past were not a people, but you are now the people of power, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. And we know he's quoting from where? He's talking about the 10 tribes, but this is from Hosea, showing that the prophecy is now fulfilled where the Mashiach was to come for the scattered house of Yasharal, the 10 tribes. Kepha clearly understood that the returning house were the house of Yasharal, which we would call Gentiles. Why? Because we took on their ways and we lived that life. However, the church is still miles away from that understanding, erecting their own building with pagan names and a lawless Mashiach. Are y'all hearing?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand what is being conveyed here to us as a people. In times past, we're not a people. In times past, we weren't a people because we were walking according to the errors in which we inherited and according to the errors we walked in, or our ancestors passed down to us. But are now the people of power. So who's the people of power? We are. We are. Which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Why do we obtain mercy? Because we're walking in truth, and we are walking what? Walking in obedience, and we are being obedient. All right, let's read verse 11. 11 to 15. We only have one verse. It's only 25 verses. Mhm.
Beloved ones, I appeal to you as sojourners and pilgrims to abstain from fleshly lusts which battle against the life.
Now hold on right there. After he's already told them this, the reason why he's sharing this with them now, dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. He's telling them the land you're in, you are a pilgrim. Where you've been dispersed to, you are a pilgrim. You are a stranger. And as such, you are going to war against those things that come against the soul. Are you hearing me? Yes. So he's warning them of where they are and to be prepared. In other words, he gave them the cake, put the icing on it. Now he's saying, now, I gave you that, but now I want to bring you to another place because I want to reveal something to you. All right, come on.
Verse 12. Having your behavior among the Gentiles great, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, let them. By observing your great works, esteem Yahuwah in a day of visitation.
Now, hold that thought. Now, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, that they may be, or they may by your great works, which they shall behold, esteem power in the day of visitation. Important right here. Our conversation has to be that which is wholesome and upright. And we have to be careful of how, when we are doing things, not just around those of the dispersion, but those that are of another nationality and other people, how we deal, because they want and are looking for a reason to speak evil of us. So we have to be careful. Once again, this takes us back to Yahuwah son of Nun 1 and 8. Acting what? Wisely. Because these things war against the soul. Nobody wants to be looked down upon. Nobody wants to be treated ill. But this is where we got to bring that flesh, what? Into obedience. Fleshly lust, meaning abnormal desires, which war against the soul. All right, come on.
Verse 13. Be subject to every institution of man because of the master, whether to the sovereign as supreme, or to governors as to those who are sent by him, for the punishment of doers of evil and a praise for those who do great. Because such is the desire of Yahuwah, that by doing great you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, I'm going to read this footnote. The whole speech is about Yasharal and how Yasharal how Yasharal should conduct within Yasharal. This ain't talking about outsiders. Because we ain't supposed to follow up behind what the president does. The governor does. People that are in political positions that oppose truth, we're not supposed to esteem them and follow up behind them. But when there is no interjection and there is no explanation of who and what is being addressed, Christianity says you're just supposed to follow up behind everybody. If the president says do it, do it. If this is the laws of the land, do it. I don't care what the laws say. If the laws go against my belief and according to what I'm supposed to live, according to the Yahweh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Because I'm not going to go against the Abba, even if it is according to the land. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Y'all follow me? You sure y'all with me?
Yes.
Very important. So he's talking about the conduct that we're supposed to have in Yashua. Let me put it in this manner. If you know that there is another instructor, another Mora, another Ak, another Akodi, and you deal with them, you still have to deal with them in respect. Even if our beliefs are different, we still have to deal with one another with respect. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It has to be in respect. And I'm talking about houses, tribes. Because many tribes have different beliefs. Many say one name, others say another name. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But we still have to respect one another. We can't go and degrade one another. We can't do that. Now we have to respect them as individuals. I don't have to respect their way. Do you follow me?
Yes.
No, we don't. No, I'm not. If it's wrong, I'm not going to uphold you in your error. No. All right. Now, the institution here were the ones that were the rabbinic ones, which were to correct people. And this is what they're talking about, correcting. Now, I'm going to read this once again because this is his view on this. The rabbinic ones, which were to correct people such as the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai. They tried to enact various laws to protect Torah and enforce Torah law. This is where many believers get confused, as if Peter is giving the consent or license to live through societal laws that are unjust. He is not. Every human law must be measured by Torah laws, and that any that contradict Torah must be rejected as Yahuwah's laws are supreme, just as I was saying. Here, Kepha is referring to the laws or the courts and not Gentile ones, the ones that are set up for us in the writings. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. The prince of Nasi was the head of the rabbinic court, and in that time when Kepha was speaking, there was a functioning temple with a Nazi or head too. Even our master Yahush, this is what he says, subjected himself to them. I'm going to say this. I believe that the Abba, through Yahush, subjected himself only to the writings. Because for him to subject himself to man's structure would mean that he had to humble himself under their rule. He was first. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the reason why I'm saying this and bringing this out is that I believe that he was subject to nothing but Torah. He might have respected their structure, but as far as him submitting, I can't agree with that. But I will agree that he submitted to Torah and to the instructions that the Abba gave him. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Because to say that he submitted to their structure would say that their structure was perfect and without flaw. And that's not so. That's definitely not so. But I will say this, that he respected it. You can respect the person's theory, but it doesn't mean you have to follow up behind it. There are things that Dr. Umar Johnson has said and done. He follows Pan-Africanism. There are things that Marcus Garvey said that I respect, but I will never follow his views and his theory. He was adamant about teaching his people truth and their history. Now, I have to agree with that. If you don't know your history, then how do you know what your present and future, if that's really correct? If you don't know what your future is or was. I mean, what your past was. But he taught them to teach his people. So I can agree with that. But I won't agree with theories and things that go against what the writings say. I won't do that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So this is where problems come in. Now, they were not always right, but they were there to serve Yahuwah. Though some did not quite live up to the standards they tried to enforce, but the people are the lawmakers of Yahuwah and have a set established halakha that we need to agree with. They are called Yahuwah's lawgiver. Now, once again, it's important that we understand the only way that it can be, you can be truly a lawgiver of Abba Yahuwah is that you have to give his doctrine or his instruction. Anything other than that, you can't do it. If I add to it, I have just put my touch on it and I've just messed it up. Can't add to it. Now let me make this. Let me bring it to this forefront. And we got a few more verses, and then we're going to close. When we do Yahush, the son of Nun, 1 and 8, I tailored it to make it personal. I have not altered it to where now this thing is given to everybody, and now it is a must do.
Right.
I tailored it for this tribe, for this community, because that is what the Abba gave me, to make it personal. Error. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I've just taken it out of its confinement, and I've just taken it out of the place that the Abba put it in. So you have to be very careful with these things. We can't do things of that nature, because then we run the risk of now altering things that we were never given position, authority to alter. So with that being said, you have to be careful. He says they didn't do everything right, but they did do some things right. Well, if they didn't do it right, then you can't expect that what is right, wholesome, and pure to subject or come under something that is not right. That's what you call coming under something. And he will never come under something, but he will always be over it.
Mm-hmm.
So to say he was subject to their schools is error. It's error. Because he is the master teacher. He came to bring them truth. They can't give him what they don't have. So it's important that we understand that. Y'all follow me?
Yes.
All right. Now, let's see. All right. Once again, it's important that we following this, and that we make sure that we are doing everything that he's given unto us, and making sure that we are following his example and doing everything that he's given unto us to do. Why? Because people are watching you. People are watching me. And especially when you have your seats on. People are watching. It's a marker. It identifies who we are. And then when you start dressing like yourself, like your people, it is truly a bringing out and a set apart way. People are going to look at you. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Let's finish reading.
Verse 16.
Mm-hmm.
Live as free men. Do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as servants of Yahuwah. Show proper respect to everyone. Have the brotherhood of believers. Fear Yahuwah, esteem the king. Servants, submit yourselves to your masters with all respect, not only to those who are great and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. For it is commendable if a man bears up under the pain of unjust suffering because he is conscious of Yahuwah. But how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? But if you suffer for doing great and endure it, this is commendable before Yahuwah. This you were called, because Mashiach suffered for you, leaving you an example that you follow in his steps. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, very important that we follow the instructions that is given, as he is bringing forth verse 16, as free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of power. We're not under certain things, so we don't want to be people that are malicious, arrogant, and disobedient. Esteem all men, have the brotherhood, fear power, and esteem the king. When it says to esteem all men, he's talking about Yahshua again. Those that are walking in truth and those that are doing what they're supposed to do. Servants, be subject to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the dishonest ones. Remember in the writings, when we go back into, I believe it's in Wayikra, during the time when they had to submit themselves under, basically they had to rent their land out or sell their land, and instead of them being the landowners, they became the servants of their own land. And in that 7th year, during Shemitah, that is when, or in the 50th year, I'm sorry, in the 7 years, it is a time of rest. And then after the rest, the time in the 50th year, there would be a time of release. And that which was a time of a Yorobel, when the land would be given back to its rightful owners. Well, during that time, many people that would end up having to sell their land, they would sell it to those and they would end up working on their land. And in the process of working on their land, they became servants of their land, or they went and worked somewhere else while somebody else cultivated their land. This is in reference to that. But because of those that don't understand the structure of us and what we did, they were indentured servants, and they served because they had nothing. But in the 50th year, that land was to go back unto them. It was to go back. It was to be released unto them. You didn't lose anything. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
But you got it back. But you still had to conduct yourself in a manner, even if the person was cruel, you still had to live accordingly, and you still had to be respectful.
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
So this is not talking about the slavery that our people encountered, and they used the writings to manipulate people and force them into slavery. Are you hearing me? This was servitude that you basically subjected yourself to because you had no other choice. Not in the sense of slavery as we know it, with the Caucasians, how they did us. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
No, he's talking about those that were indentured or bartered out servants. For this finds power, esteem, if someone for conscience towards power suffers unjustly and endures grief. If you are suffering because you're doing right, then there's nothing to do but continue to do right. But if you're doing it and you know you're wrong, repent and get it right. Verse 20 says it. For what esteem is it if you be credited for your faults and you take it patiently? They say, or you being whooped because you're wrong. If you're wrong and you're getting punished, there is no esteem in that. You're getting your just reward. So he's showing us how to balance this out. But if when you do well and suffer unjustly for it, this finds esteem with power. And this is where it comes to. There are times that we've got to learn how to hold our peace. We got to, look at people and take what they do as a grain of salt. It's the truth. We all have to learn that. I do. Because I can't stand foolishness and ignorance. And more when we go to certain places, you find that people are very brazen. And they like to do stuff to try to call you out. Well, we have the word that tells us that we can't engage in certain things when we know they're doing stuff because they know who we are. So if they're doing it because of who we are, that's when we rejoice and thank the Abba that they notice that we are who we are, and now they're trying to draw us out because they want to be able to say something against us and want to try to back it up with us acting out or basically playing into their foolishness. We can't do that. For even hereunto were you called, we were called, because Mashiach also suffered, and we know he suffered for us, leaving us an example that we should follow his steps. When they reviled him and when they spoke ill of him, he either said something or he kept his mouth closed. But he never showed that it got to him. See that, and I know, when I look at this, I'm not gonna lie, I know this is speaking to me. Because there are times when people look at me, I'm like, you might well keep that moving. Because my fuse is this long. And it don't take but a little bit of spark. And I'm realizing though, okay, I'll be who you're showing me. They recognize who I am. So if they recognize who I am and they don't like it, they're not going to rejoice because I know who I am. They're gonna have problems. So that's the thing now, is being able to understand the Mashiach suffered. So we're going to deal with things. We're going to deal with people being malicious and nasty and arrogant and stupid. And the worst case is when it's from your own. But you still got to know how to deal with it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
It's the truth. Now listen what he says. For even hereunto were you called, because Mashiach also suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow his steps. I ain't talking about when you're in error and you're getting rebuked. I'm not talking about that. Who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. He didn't break Torah. Neither was there anything found in his mouth that would cause them to say and do what they did. Who, when he was reviled, that's what it says, did not revile in return. You have to walk away. You have to walk away. And sometime in your walking away, you might have to cry. Because in them tears, you're letting the other know, you don't hold me, I'm going to do something, and I know I'm going to be in trouble for it. Tears are not a sign of weakness, that's a sign of strength.
Exactly.
That's strength. Because that's a way of releasing, saying, Abba, I trust you, and I believe you. Because if I don't, then I'm going to do like Medea did in the play. This is what a black woman does, and I'm not no black woman when she's hungry. Medea went in there, and it was funny because she started tearing up the plates because they didn't serve her. But the thing of it is, we shouldn't have to, and we're not going to tear up plates. We're just going to sit, and we're going to walk in shalom and let the world know, and even those that are of the nation of Yahshua. I'm not going to let that get under my skin because I know who I am, and I know what I'm supposed to do. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That is important. Because if not, how does the Abba get a sting from our lives? You can't. You can't. So it's important that we follow that and that we not. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judges rightly. When he suffered, he threatened not. You kill my dog, I'm going to burn down your house. We're going to do this and do that. So this is where we as the children of Yahshua, and I know me included, where we have to truly commit ourselves to Abba Yahuwah that judges rightly. See, because when you get to threatening me, I'm ready to go get my baby. And she speaks in 12 languages. 13 languages. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That's just my, way of showing you what she does. But trust me, she speaks in 13 languages. And she don't bite her tongue when she speaks at all. But as the children of Yahshua, when people threaten us, we gotta learn. Now understand, threatening is one thing, but when you come to do me harm, that's a whole nother ball game. Are you hearing me? Because nowhere did he tell us to let somebody kill us. But one person sacrificed, and that was the Mashiach. Are y'all following?
Yes.
But people threatening you, those are just words. That's when we commit ourselves to the Yahweh. Who in himself bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we being dead to sin should live to righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. Past tense, so we're already healed because we have committed ourselves and submitted ourselves to his instructions, and because we have committed ourselves to following in the Torah. For you were as sheep gone astray, but are now returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. We're returned now. We were like sheep gone astray, but are now returned to the shepherd and overseer of our souls. So now, with that being said, people ought to know that we've returned. How people know you've returned? Because you don't act like you're lost. You act like you know where you belong. And when you act like where you belong and who's truly the shepherd and overseer of your soul, then it's like, okay, that's where you're going to do it for me. I ain't got to fight my battles. My Abba's going to fight for me. And when you understand that, then you understand the consequences of those that come and try to engage you. Because they're going to be the one. And Abba say, just you stay over here, I got this. Are y'all following me? That is why it is important that we govern ourselves accordingly. Are you hearing me? All of us. Because see, you gotta understand, when we get into squabbles as children, and y'all don't really get into it, which I really do appreciate the opportunity. I know y'all, say your piece and have your words. But if I ever had to be a part, if I could be a sibling, I would prefer to be with y'all. If I had to go back and be a child, I would prefer y'all to be my siblings, my brothers and my sisters. Because when y'all deal with one another, y'all know how to deal with one another. You may get angry with one another. You may say this and you may say that, but at the end of the yom and at the end of the layla, you're back to doing what you do. You're back to being mishpachah, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Because you understand, this is what we're gonna say, and this is it. I'm gonna say it. But there are those that don't deal with it. They cut you off at the root and don't deal with it. I told Sean, I said, you would make a great brother. He would. He would make an awesome brother. And the thing of it is, once again, is that when you have siblings that get into that, the parents know how to deal with it. When we get into disagreements, the Abba knows how to come in and deal with it. You don't need outsiders. Because you got to understand, he's going to whoop both of them. He's not going to whoop one, he's going to whoop both of us. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So the importance of understanding that we are no longer in the dark and that we know who the shepherd and overseer of our soul is that we govern ourselves. Have you noticed how Caucasians and the European people walk with an air of arrogance because of who their president is? They do that because they feel like he's going to back us up. Okay, believe it if you want to. Believe it if you want to. But that's their belief. And he's going to back them. So how do we carry ourselves? That we know that the Abba is going to back us.
Right.
He's going to support us front, back, side, top, bottom, left, right. He's got us covered because we trust him. This is something we have to mature and develop into. Just like a newborn baby. That newborn baby, if you ever notice when a baby's born, that's why we keep them wrapped up. We do the mummy wrap. Is that when they're unwrapped, their hands fling all over the place? Because you got to remember, for 9 months, they were in this kind of position. Or this position. Or this position. Now they got this freedom. They have to be brought in and made to feel secure while they're outside of the womb. And slowly, when you unwrap them and you hold them and you make them feel comfortable, and they know, right? I will fall before I drop my baby. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
I will fall. I will hit the ground before I drop my baby. You brought them to a place of security. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because you have gained their trust. They trust you. Papa may get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it. We were going to church one year, and he had just bought some real slick shoes. Nice shoes. He was sharp as a tack. Laquan was a baby. And he was going down the steps, and he slipped. And where we were, it was grass. He slipped, but he tossed Laquan in the grass, because he was about 4 or 5. He tossed him in the grass to keep from hurting him. He fell on his elbow, didn't break it, but he fell on his elbow and scratched it up. But Laquan didn't get hurt because he was believing that he wasn't going to get hurt because he was holding on to him. But when he slipped, he tossed him in the grass. And I'm talking about, y'all know that what's not monkey grass, what's that grass called? That grass be this tall when you walk in, you're like, oh man, I could take this in the house. This is so thick and comfortable. But it was that kind of grass. Now, mind you, I laughed. I'm sorry, y'all. I have to be truthful because it was funny. but he was well and the baby was well. But what I am saying is that as parents, we know how to be to build that um, security blanket to secure that what is vulnerable and most precious to us. We are precious to the Abba, and so He's not going to let anything happen to us. But we got to trust Him. When we don't trust Him, we won't be able to know what He'll do for us in the midst of a situation. If we always taking it into our own hands, we won't know. Are y'all following?
Yes.
But because we know this, once again, how do we know this? Because we have tasted and we have seen. Through tasting and seeing, we know that the Abba is great and that He will take care of us from beginning to end. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Come on, put your hands together and esteem Him. We appreciate the Abba for you and you for your time. I pray that there has been something said that will encourage you to keep on pushing and to keep on standing. And excuse me, if you have been like I was and many others, where you get to a point where you get so frustrated with people being obnoxious and nasty that you tend to want to take it into your own hands. You get to a point where you want to defend yourself because you get tired of stupidity. There comes a time that we have to relinquish that position and let the Abba be who He is, and this is that time. Once again, I do not condone people beating up on people, so please understand what I'm saying. If a person threatens you, just keep on walking. You don't turn your back on them, you back away from them. If a person is trying to fight you, you defend yourself. But a person way across the road, being slanderous and all that, you just walk away from that and let the Abba handle that. And we have to, because we have to show forth the praise and show forth that we believe that He will keep us and that He will protect us. So, and show that we know who the overseer and the shepherd who the shepherd and overseer of our soul is. So with that being said, keep your head up, keep your shoulders squared, and keep your heart and your feet in and upon the Torah, because you can't go wrong when you adhere to His instructions for your life. I am Aliyah Yashua, and I am the Mora of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, a great belief congregation located in South Carolina. I want you to remember, here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, a great belief congregation, this is the place where
The Torah does the body excellent.
Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in His shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.
And it is so.